Ignoring gravity, ignoring gravity. There's a line where a shower stops. If you watch it across a parched road, a languid perimeter of raindrops, sensuous, endless in its approach.
Hello guys, you are listening to Soundcheck and I'm the host of the podcast and my name is Divash Gahatraj. Soundcheck with Divash Gahatraj is all about independent music scene in India. And today with me I have Suraj Mani. He's been in the independent music scene for almost 2 decades now. He started off his career as the lead vocalist of Mother Jane, the popular indie rock band from Kerala. And later on he went to do his solo career as Suraj Mani and Dattapra Trip. Today we shall talk with Suraj about his musical journey so far and about his new romantic song, Ignoring Gravity. So without any further delay, let's begin this conversation.
Soundcheck with Divash Gahatraj.
Hi Suraj, how are you doing? Thank you so much for being a part of this podcast.
Hey Divash, nice to be here. Thank you.
And yeah, it's so good to talk to you because I was planning to do this interview with you for a long time and finally we are doing it. So what's up? How's the scene there in Bangalore, especially with the corona pandemic and all that?
Ignorance is bliss seems to be the current operating philosophy over here. People are ignoring the entire pandemic and hence it doesn't seem to exist for a lot of people. And at some point of time, I think we are not a rich enough country to just sit back and stay at home. So a lot of people have to get out there and work, and so people are getting out there and working. Fortunately, in India, the mortality rate seems to be very low, so that's a blessing. And I'm going to leave it at that. And I don't know anybody personally who's got it and who has had a bad problem. I have a couple of friends who got the corona, but they recovered and they seem to be fine. So I'm thanking my stars for that.
Yeah, let's hope for the best to overcome this situation ASAP. So yeah, let's begin from the beginning, Suraj. So when did you start your musical journey? Mother Jane, early 90s?
Not 90s actually. I joined Mother Jane in the year 2000.
Okay.
Mother Jane started in 1996 and I joined them in 2000. My musical journey starts in college when I got ragged in engineering college and somebody asked me to sing and I sang and they said, you sing well, and so that's where I started. Was completely by chance, and chance continued because when I was working in Cochin, I had a business there, an air conditioning business, and I was working there. One of my friends said, I'm taking you to one place, and we went to a floating restaurant there, and there was a drummer and a guitarist who were jamming there, and he introduced me to them and I sang some stuff and all with them and all that, and that was Baiju and John from Mother Jane, and after that they invited me to join the band. It was Baiju, John and Clyde were existing members, and I was invited and I joined, and along with me Rex from Avian, so he also joined at the same time, and that's how we started in the year 2000.
Okay, so was there a musical atmosphere while growing up in the family?
Not at all. As in, a lot of people in my family sing, but nobody was ever doing anything like performances and stuff and all like that. A lot of people in my family actually sing. My dad's side of the family, a lot of people sing very well, but we were never into performances and things. So this was a surprise to me. It was a surprise to everybody in my family also. Yeah, but it happened and I'm so glad it happened.
Oh yes. So you're not trained, right? You're not a trained singer.
No, I'm not. Neither am I a trained guitarist. I picked up the guitar in the year 2012. So, and that also is untrained. So I'm completely untrained. I have something to. I'm more emotion driven than anything else. If I have something to say, if I have trying to make sense out of life with a song, and songs seem to be somehow, they seem to come to me. Because I'm saying come to me because I never write a song from a point of knowledge or from any set patterns, or my songs are not a distillation of my knowledge. They're not a subset of my knowledge. They're a subset of my emotions.
So what comes first to you? Is it like you write it, then you create the melody?
Yes, actually, yes. The only song that I sang a melody before actually finishing was Mind Street, because I had just joined the band, and they were just playing some chords, and I started humming something into it, and I went back home and I wrote the lyric and came back the next day. Every other song that I've made till now has always been the lyric first. That's the way it works for me. I'm more of a writer than a musician, I think.
So like while growing up during your childhood days, what kind of music were you introduced to?
Very truthfully, I never used to listen to music until I hit my 8th standard. And then somebody forgot 2 cassettes in my house. One was a Best of Beatles and one was some country music gold or something like that. And I was like, whoa. And it was a holiday at that time. I had nothing else to do. And I started listening to music. And then I quickly got into a lot of pop and rock and, people like Phil Collins, Genesis, Pink Floyd, Eagles, Aerosmith. And I came through that normal path. And that's how I started listening to music. And in college, I met a lot of people. Once I went to engineering college, I was staying in the hostel. And once you go to the hostel, people are always recommending music to you. So you keep hearing all kinds of music. And that's when I started hearing the heavier stuff. Initially, I was like, whoa, why are these guys screaming and all that? But then I started developing an appetite for that as well. And my music has been pretty varied and different. For me, if I like a song, I like a song. I don't really bother too much about where it comes from.
So tell me about the recent project that you're doing, Suraj Mani and the Tattva Trip. Why do you call yourself as the tripper?
Well, the Tattva Trip, I look at the Tattva Trip as my journey after Mother Jane. Like, Mother Jane was a good 10 years of my life. I joined them in 2001 actually almost, and left in 2011. And
almost a decade.
Oh yeah, I did a decade with them completely. We did 2 albums and maybe 3 or 4 singles. And at that point of time, I had a ruptured spine. And so I left the band because I lived in Bangalore, they were in Cochin. I used to travel 28-hour bus drives to go for practice. 14 hours this direction, 14 hours the other direction. Did that for 10 years. Ruptured my spine. Doctor told me you have to do surgery and all that. But so I quit the band at that point of time. And basically, I still had written a lot of lyrics. 20 odd songs, 20 odd lyrics that were written and were not made. But when I was alone, I remember Eva Daud, my Mother Jane PR, she used to actually take PR for us. So she said, listen, I just put out a statement saying that I had this injury and I'm quitting the band, etc., etc. And then so she told me, she says, I've started one Facebook page for you. I didn't even have a Facebook account then. I was just, the band is enough. I don't need to be having a Facebook account. I'm a kind of a private person, which has changed over the years. But so she said, I'm starting a page for you. And she says, I've written that you're a singer-songwriter. So she says, do you play the guitar? I said, you know what? I've learned some 3 or 4 songs when I was in college. Maybe I should pick it up again. And I picked up the acoustic guitar and just had a go at it. And before you know it, I was writing more and more songs. So yeah, it's been a journey.
So it was a relaunch of yourself, no?
Oh yeah, it was completely different. After doing Mother Jane, which was a certain type of music, and it was a big band. We were the biggest band in India at that point of time.
Pioneers of rock in India.
Yes, one of them.
One of the pioneers.
Playing to 10,000, 15,000 people at a gig, and also went to come back after 3-4 years and to sit on on a stool and do a acoustic gig for some 50 to 100 people was an entirely different feeling. But I embraced it. I kind of realized that one phase of my life was over, and if I wanted to do music, I would have to start from scratch again. And I actually have no complaints because I found an entirely different audience. There were more intimate gigs, and I got the place to actually tell stories and sing songs, and it became like that. And slowly I found certain musicians who became part of my band and all that. And so yeah, it's been fun.
Yes. This is a Suraj Mani 2.0, no? Launch. So yeah, going back to the earlier question, Tattva Trip. What is a tripping thing? Yeah, I'm very intrigued to ask this question.
So the thing is, Tattva actually means the essence of things or the principle of things in Sanskrit. Yeah, so I tend to look at things from different angles, and I'm always interested in that. So, which is perspective, right? I'm somebody who's interested in perspective. I don't believe that there's one way to look at the world. So I look at, if I find something that I like, I will write a song about it, and if I find something that I don't like in my life, I will look at that situation from different perspectives. I'll walk around it and walk around it until I find a certain perspective where I say, oh, now it is nice, it's beautiful again. And typically at that point I will write one more song. So my entire journey is about taking different things in life and tripping on them, and basically enjoying myself, making sense of life, hopefully helping my audience also to enjoy themselves. Many people come with so much struggles in life, and a gig is one place where you'd like to actually just relax. Sometimes you want to laugh, you want to cry, you want to shout out in anger, sometimes you want to make sense of the situation that you're going through. And I do my thing, and I think I've been very grateful I have been given this chance. So sometimes I introduce a tripper. I will say there is a Tattva tripper. I'll say that he can travel through time and space, he can move, he can see into the hearts and minds of people, and these are their stories and these are their songs. So it becomes like, whoa, okay, this is something is happening, and I take people through sometimes an audio visual presentation or whatever it is. So I talk about my life, and the trippers look at that situation and they think about their lives. So that's the Tattva trip.
I have to attend one of your concerts.
You should.
Very soon
It is
then.
fun.
And why do you paint your face? Is that your avatar of stage?
I've stopped doing that. I used to do that for a long time. I used to do that with Mother Jane. I continue to do that with the Tattva trip for some time. But I've stopped doing that now. As for now, at least I've kind of settled into this whole singer-songwriter kind of mode. So now I've made the tripper imaginary character. So I think I have created enough backdrop for that journey and that person, and so people have seen me in this painting and they think, what is that? And I say that's a tripper, and so I have enough imagery to actually suggest that this journey is not just mine, that it is a symbolic journey.
It's actually quite philosophical.
Oh, I'm full of bullshit.
Yeah, I was going through one of your, not just one, like couple of videos where you kind of have this lyric book.
Yes.
And you give people, you ask your audience to pick one card. What is that? How do you do that?
So the thing is, over the years, I've hit some 85 songs. I have some, including 20 songs from Mother Jane, which I've done. I've written another 65 odd songs. And
wow.
I mean, in the sense that they're all composed songs. I can actually play the guitar and sing the song. So what started happening is that I realized that there was not going to be possible for me to play all these songs everywhere. And at some point of time I said, I want to play these songs, but how do I get that to happen? And then I hit upon this idea that I actually make a pack of cards, and just like tarot session reading kind of thing, I actually asked the audience, I said, you pick a card. And whatever that card is, I will tell you the story and sing it. So I don't know if you're picking the song or the song is picking you. And it becomes a very interactive thing where people start saying, oh yeah, I've gone through that situation, and yeah, this is my whole thing. And it again deepens the journey for certain people. So, but it's terrifying for me to do that because I have to remember all the 85 songs, word for word, lyric for lyric, chord for chord, But it's good practice, yeah. So I do that sometimes.
So how has been the response so far? I'm sure you've been doing it for a long time now, with those picking up card and...
Oh, the cards actually make for a very magical experience. It's an entirely different thing. I mean, because everybody sitting there suddenly realizes that, I mean, if you look at that cards, it's like quite a thick bunch of, it's like one handful. No, it's like 3 packs of playing cards. So it's that thick. And then you suddenly realize, man, this artist has written a lot of songs. So by subliminally, I'm communicating that, yes, I am a prolific artist. And then they're just picking a random song and then I tell a story. So they connect with that. So then there's a, you understand that this is a full-on journey. It's not a, this is not just somebody who's just singing about something. This guy has got a journey behind him and all. And the third thing is that when you hear a song out of maybe 80, 90 songs, and that song is nice, and then somebody else picks another card and that song is also nice, and then somebody else picks another card and that's also nice, people start saying, man, this guy has written a lot of good songs. I mean, at least this is what I'd like to think people are thinking. Yeah, it is a bold, brave way to actually say that, listen, I'm willing to push the boundaries, and you should also Yeah, you should take some inspiration from that.
No, it's quite interesting because generally when you're performing in a gig,
Yeah.
it's like one dimensional. No, you are just singing and people are listening, but
Y-
it's not coming from that side. But this way, the process which you are doing, it's quite interactive.
Oh, it is. And I do this when I do solo gigs because otherwise my band will have to learn 85 songs, no? So I don't
Oh,
stress them
yes.
with that. This is when I am doing a solo gig and I feel that, okay, let me do something special today. Then I pick out the cards and I set it up. So sometimes I will actually give the lyric book also to people and then they can read the lyric as I'm singing it. So it makes so much more,
Wow.
You
Impact.
picked a card. You don't know what I don't know what today's gig is going to be. You pick a card, so you read, and then I tell you the story behind it. You tell me how it's linked to your life, and then you read the lyric while it's being performed for you. It is quite something.
Yes, yes, yes. So, Suraj, since this is like we're doing it remotely, isn't it? You are sitting in Bangalore, I am here in Siliguri, and I can't pick a card. So, yeah, you have to sing one song for me. I maybe you decide, you pick a card. Today it's your day. You pick a card, and you have to play the song for me and the listeners who are listening right now.
All right. Okay, and I picked a card, and it says, "You said I agreed."
and I agree. Thank you. And that is, you said I agreed.
Thank you so much, Suraj. So awesome. So yeah. So Suraj, I have this question for you. How do you juggle music and entrepreneurship? You do it pretty well.
Yes.
What is your success mantra?
Well, it is actually relatively. I have a relatively simple technique which everybody can use. So instead of asking yourselves why you can't do something, because you will always get enough answers for that, I ask myself how I can do this and that. And that's it. If you ask yourself why you can't do something and you're a smart fellow, you will come up with answers which says, oh, this is why I can't do this. This is why I can't do that. The smarter you are, the more answers you will have.
As simple as it, huh?
Yeah, it is actually so simple. So then instead of that, I say, okay, how can I do this and that? And I get answers for that as well. Sometimes you don't get all the answers together, but that doesn't matter. What most of us fail to understand is that over a period of time, incremental steps can actually make a huge journey. I didn't write 85 songs at one go, but over a period of the last 7-8 years, 85 songs is a lot of music.
Oh yes, yeah, kind of an anthology, complete book.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you don't reach the end goal at one shot. You start and stop. You start and stop. But over a period of time, it becomes something, and it becomes something that you can be proud of sticking with.
Suraj, it is wise for an upcoming artist to have a job, and pursue his or her musical career, because so far in India, independent music scene is not that stable.
Even the Bollywood music scene is not that stable. Any kind of art career in India is not stable. So yes, it is in a sense it is the more pragmatic approach is to get a day job and struggle a little more at night and do your art. Having said that, not everybody can do that, and not everybody should do that also. Some people are pure artists. There's one thing that they can do, and my only thing to all people who are in music and in arts is that you have to work very hard. You probably have to work harder than the guy who just goes to the office, because you have to go to the office and you have to write your music. You can't be lazier than that fellow. You have to work harder than that guy. If you get what I'm saying.
To sharpen the skill, no?
Yeah, and if you're doing this only, then you bloody well be working very, very hard, because your chances of failure is so high that you have to take that little percentage chance that you have, and you have to be so skilled that you will make it work for you. Yeah, so it is one of those fields where you have to work hard. If you want to pursue a dream, you always have to work hard.
So your last EP was Rinse and Repeat.
Yeah.
How long did it take to complete the entire project, and what was the thought process behind it?
Rinse and Repeat was peculiar because my manager Manaf had actually just joined me at that point of time last year and something, and I was going through some personal stuff in my life. It was a difficult part of my life, and I was a little frustrated with certain things, and he said, have you ever done house gigs? And I said, no. He said, would you like to do house gigs? And I said, yeah, let's do it. I said, let's go. So he got in touch with a company called Moto Jojo, or they had gotten in touch with us, and we did a 27 city tour through India, and basically I wrote this song called Rinse and Repeat, and I went in all these places and I started singing that song. And it connected with a lot of people in a lot of ways. Everybody's gone through some heartache. So, when I sang that song and I explained the story behind the whole thing, etc., it was a very popular song. And when I came back, one of the things that I remember in that gig that actually, I think it was in Kanpur, I was there and there were a bunch of young kids. 18, 19, maybe 21-year-old guys. And they were about 13, 14 of them, and they had come for the gig and they were singing all the Mother Jane songs that I was playing. I was like, wow, these guys are young, because and so I finished the gig and I met them, I was talking to them. I said, how do you know these songs? They said, no, we've heard these songs. I said, how old are you guys? They said, 18, 19. I said, so when did you hear these songs? They said, 2 years back. And I was like, okay, because it's been 10 years since I left Mother Jane, and if 2 years back young kids are still picking up those songs, I kind of realized that the power of recorded music is also there. And I had not been really recording a lot of songs because it's a complete waste of money. You spend so much money and then you recover nothing out of it. But then when I saw these kids, I was kind of inspired, and I said, you know what, I should start recording the new material that I'm doing. So I went back. When I came back, I got into the studio and I started recording. And I released it during the COVID season. It did very well. It went into the international indie charts, and it went up to number 2 on the world music
Yeah,
charts.
I was reading. Yes, I was reading about it. Yes.
Yeah, and number 4, I think, on the Euro indie chart. So that was a song that actually did very well for me. I was suddenly, yeah, I was being played on hundreds and hundreds of stations in America and Europe and South America, Australia, New Zealand. It came as a surprise to me because I've been doing this for a long time, but I guess the world is actually a changed place now. So
Thanks to the streaming platforms which we have.
well, this actually happened on radio. It was not streaming.
Acha, acha.
Yeah, this entire thing was on physical radio FM stations.
Acha,
Yeah,
acha,
yeah,
acha.
yeah. So streaming is an entirely different thing. Radio itself. These were legitimate radio with spins and all those things that came. So
Ha, ha, ha.
that is what surprised me. Streaming, yes, we are all used to streaming, and that's happening. But this was actual radio.
Thank God they still play good music on the radio.
Thank God they played my music on the radio. I hope they played some more.
Yeah, some good music should be played on radio because I have my reservations regarding Indian FM stations. They play shit music.
Yes, the thing is, in India, somebody needs to break the mold always. And the moment it becomes a success, then everybody suddenly runs down that path. That's the only thing. So right now, if you go to somebody, they'll say, I mean, 10 years ago, it was like, do you do Bollywood? Now they're asking, okay, do you do Hindi, but is it, do you do Hindi, but is it in Hindi? You know, so it's, the questions change, but every time somebody succeeds, certain rules change in the country. We are largely a country that people don't really risk too much in our country.
yes.
Once you get a job, you don't want to rock the boat. So if the corporate tells you that this is what you're supposed to do, people tend to go and do that only, and that only types. But yeah, things are still changing. Like when I started in Mother Jane, which was 20 years ago, there were no bands even doing indie music. There were like 5 bands which were actually doing original music, and we were one of them. So it has changed to a situation where there's an entire indie industry with so many artists who are releasing constant music, no? So sometimes change, like I said, it is like that journey to MG Road. It is happening. All of us are getting there.
So yeah, you have seen the cassette days, and then you saw, and now currently you're seeing the streaming days.
Yes, yeah.
So what is your take on the contemporary indie music scene of our country?
Well, I think streaming is extremely unfair to the artists in the sense that there is no income. Yeah? You get 1 cent or something for a song. I mean, there's an industry which is actually booming out there, but the artists still continue not to make money. I think that has to be changed. I always have felt that, you know, at the center of the music industry, there's a musician. And if you don't take care of the musician, then your industry is always going to suffer. And I hope good sense will prevail, and, you know, better compensation will actually happen for the musician. He's anyway taking a lot of risk, right? You know, by being an artist. It's not fair that everybody else in the industry makes money, but the musician does not get paid. I've always
the
been.
source is not being paid, no?
Yeah, I in fact I have a song called "What About the Bees," which I wrote about this entire parallel, where I'm saying that in the past the beekeeper will get honey, but he will leave some honey for the bees so that the bee can also survive and thrive, right? So I'm saying that the music industry also should, you know, take the music, it's fine, but leave something for the artist also. If the artist does not survive, then where are you going to actually build a sustainable, good industry? And have some heart, if nothing else. Accept that you cannot make that honey by yourself. Doesn't matter if you're in industry. So when certain people say that, oh, you have to release a new song every 2-3 months and you should be hardworking and all, I actually sometimes look at that people and I say that you would never be able to write a song in your entire life, and you're telling somebody that you should actually make something every 2-3 months. Boss, have some humility and have some gratitude that you're getting all this music without actually being able to do it yourself.
So what can be the way out for survival for musicians in a situation like ours at present?
Oh, that I think is beyond the scope of this interview. But I think fans always are going to, at some point of time, if more and more people start even if it is streaming, and if more and more people start paying for the subscription, and if the accounting process is clean and clear, and artists get to know exactly what the deals are and how much is actually coming to them. I think transparency is the most critical part.
Better monetization of.
Yeah, it's not just better monetization. I think there is enough monetization happening now. I don't think there's enough transparency. You can actually have a lot more money going into the business, but if there's no transparency, it's not going to reach the recipients still. So I think what's more important is that there has to be a certain transparency that happens, that okay, so much streams have happened, this guy has to get this much money, this is the total income, this is the total outflow, and it has gone here to here to here to here to here.
Correct. Suraj, is there a gag still in Bangalore for performing live in pubs?
I don't think it is really open. There are certain places where there are inquiries for singer-songwriter kind of gigs right now, because I think people are not getting fully into band and a packed audience kind of a situation. So I think there are inquiries for singer-songwriter gigs that are happening. I got one last week, and unfortunately my dad is actually going to come and live with me and he's 85. So I said, you know what, I don't want to do something now because I don't want to actually put him at risk. So
Correct.
yeah. But I think everybody is slowly easing into it, and there is no other choice. We'll have to go through what we have to go through.
So let's talk about Ignoring Gravity, your brand new single.
It's a love song. It is a proper love song. I never wrote any love songs when I was in Mother Jane. So now I'm like, the guys that were like, no love songs. I said, okay, cool, no problem, it won't be done. But now I'm getting to actually, indulge in certain emotions, and this is I really like this song. I'll tell you the story behind the song because I think it's a cute story. So I'm actually on this bus during this tour, this 27 city tour, and we are traveling between two cities, and on this rickety old bus, and it conks off halfway on the highway, and the driver says, you guys have to get down, another bus will come and pick you up. So we get down with our luggage, holding my guitar, standing with my friends there, and then suddenly I can see the rain coming from far away, from across the road. It's like as if it is walking towards us, and I'm holding my guitar and saying, oh my god, my guitar will get wet tips. And then suddenly the smell of the soil, that petrichor, that smell comes, and I'm like, whoa, and I said, I have to write a song about this. And so 5 minutes later, I'm sitting in the next bus, completely wet, but I'm typing away furiously on my iPhone, and I'm typing the songs. And then I stopped for a second and said, why does the soil do that? The soil is always on the ground. Why does the soil rise at the appearance of rain? Or sometimes even at the promise of rain, the soil is actually, rising up. And I said, you know what, this would make a lovely love song, because in the presence of certain people, we break all our rules.
Oh yes.
And so I wrote the song, and I called it Ignoring Gravity.
Science-defying song, Ignoring Gravity. No? So can you hum one line for us? Just hum.
Well, it starts like, it goes, ignoring gravity, ignoring gravity. I go to the verse, it says, there's a fragrance to the air that curls and spirals around me, of soil that rises to meet the rain willfully. Ignoring gravity. And it goes on like that.
Wow, thank you so much. You have such a nice voice.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. Thank you. So what are your future plans now? What are you planning to do next?
Well, I am facing the situation for what it is, understanding that streaming is the way to go, and I am going to release a lot more songs, though I do think it is unfair to ask artists to release a song every 2-3 months. At least I have written enough songs to release that for some time, so I've decided to go ahead and do that. Sometimes if you can't change the situation, you can change your reaction to the situation. So
Yes, you can.
my job is that I have written enough songs, and
Come on, you have 85 songs in your lyric book. No, you can release like every month one.
Well, 20 are already done. I mean, that's Mother Jane, and I'd already done an album called The Tattva Trip, so that is another 9 songs. So 30 of them are done. I have another 50 songs to record and
Wow,
release.
good to go. So streaming is your next thing, huh? So we'll be able to hear you more on the stream.
Well, frankly, my thing is always to keep writing and releasing, and the industry will take its own course, I guess. It'll do its own thing. But right now the thing is streaming, so I do hope that you guys will log into iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, whatever it is, and please check for Suraj Mani. You will find a number of songs, and when you hear the new nice songs, maybe you'll go and check out the old nice songs as well. And if you can make me a millionaire, I shall be very, very grateful.
Yes, so people who are listening, please listen to him. And of course, you'll love him. Thank you so much, brother. Thank you so much. It was so wonderful talking to you.
Hey Divesh, it was lovely talking to you too.
Thank you so much, guys, for listening so far. And if you have come this far, I'm assuming that you're liking my podcast. If you have any feedback or suggestion, then please write to me at divash.gahatraj@gmail.com. And guys, if you're listening on YouTube, then please subscribe to my channel. I will be back very, very soon with another interesting musician. Till then, take good care of yourself. Bye bye.